Hey guys, LucarioShirona here, and we're going to be reacting to an Undeniable Canon Five Nights at Freddy's timeline, Part 3. Okay, so I'm going to be clear here, I never reacted to Part 1 and Part 2, and that's mostly because I actually watched them on my own time before this channel came about. Well, we started one before I started doing the thing. I'm not sure if I don't know. To be honest, I enjoy these. So I'm gonna actually do a blind reaction for this one. I held it off, and so I don't know what to talk about. Well, I probably might figure out what they're probably talking about, and make and see how it goes. If you want me to react to part 1 and part 2, even though it won't be blind, let me know in the comments down below. And so let's begin.
Long time no see. Are you ready to continue?
Yeah, kinda.
What are you doing? Some light reading. Don't spoil yourself. Allow me to do the hard work for you and continue the most undeniably canon FNAF timeline you'll ever hear.
Oh. Oh. Is that the golden barrel?
William Afton, after a long day's work and a 5-minute murder spree, decided to head back out to the dining area of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and stand around like nothing happened.
Wait,
however,
really
the entire restaurant was in a panic as one of the customers caught sight of Henry doing that blank stare thing again.
Wait, what is going
William
on?
Decided this was the perfect time to finally confront Henry about the $5 he was owed, but out of the corner of his eye,
he had the $5.
Boy jump out of the ball pit.
Oh, into the pit.
With some regulars in recent weeks. He wasn't typically one to speculate what the
patrons were up to, but he strongly
felt
they're
something
making
was up with
references
this
to the
boy
pit. Oh my gosh.
So, he decided to traumatize him for kicks and giggles.
Oh
William
boy.
lured the child to the safe room and graced him with the sight of all the freshly stuffed missing
children.
The kid, being reasonably horrified at this, made a mad dash back to the ball pit as William chased after him. Once he dove back in, though, William decided it wasn't worth the trouble of going any further. That ball pit was not pleasant. So
of course not.
Ready to forfeit the chase.
You never know what's in there.
William realized there was something much more mysterious.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So he decided to come back to it after making some
preparations.
The next morning, he got dressed for a potential vacation destination, staged a photo shoot to let him
oh yeah, that's right.
Where he was, and donned the spring bodysuit before plunging into the pit.
Oh, okay, there's gonna be a lot more than I realized. It's gonna be good.
2023. Oswald, the boy that had taken advantage of a time-traveling ball pit in a shady
different from the
one
the game, that's for certain.
Suddenly emerged from it in a panic to be greeted by his confused and upset father. Before his dad could give him a stern talking to, though, William Afton caught him by surprise and dragged him down the depths of the dingy pit to get himself out. William was taken aback at how easily he caught up to Oswald, but figured there must have been some inexplicable time dilation that made things more convenient. With all that settled, William took Oswald out to the pizzeria, discovered what a GPS was,
that's right, for some reason
surroundings, he couldn't fully take it all in. He was too focused on the bit. Once they arrived at the house, he sneakily bribed Oswald's mother to play along with this until further notice. After Oswald fell asleep, William decided he felt like snooping in his belongings for the heck. After sifting through pages of one of the boys' notebooks, he found drawings of the old Freddy's mascot, by various attempts at characters he didn't recognize. William's curiosity of what this was supposed to look like was enough to inspire him. So he grabbed some spare junk from the garage and began working on a new animatronic to see what would happen. Overnight, William's mess of parts somehow turned into a fully polished masterpiece. However, upon seeing he had created nothing but a conventionally attractive female character, William immediately lost interest. So he threw her in the trash before going to sleep. The next day, Oswald decided to rescue his father before it was too late. Although William tried his best to stop the boy, Oswald managed to knock him back. William, disoriented,
well, the story went
stumbled
quick.
into a net and hung himself before Oswald and his dad safely escaped. Fortunately, poor structural integrity came to the suffocating William's rescue. The ball pit's net snapped, launched William down and out the ball pit, and he skyrocketed back into the Freddy's parking lot in 1985 as if nothing happened. Meanwhile, in 2023, local entrepreneur
the whole point of vacation
organized all of his plans for the revival of Fazbear Entertainment.
Oh yeah, that's
thanks to Hurricane City Council catching that all of his documents showing their approval for different projects had forged signatures. Normally, they'd let this kind of thing slide, but they all had unanimous beef with Freddy's, and seemingly had a means to shut Michael's plans down. Upon the discovery of training tapes at the wreckage of its most recent disaster, it was made apparent that the company was meant to be finished off for good. Knowing his good looks couldn't get him out of this one, Michael thought of a more practical solution to this problem.
Okay, let's see how it goes.
He quickly tampered with the tapes while nobody was looking.
Pardon me, but if you wouldn't mind re-watching this tape, I do believe you'll find yourselves to be mistaken about the state of the company.
What?
There is need for you to return to work next week, as Fazbear Entertainment is a corporate entity.
The city council's hands were tied by this indisputable evidence.
How did he manage
allowed Michael to continue his business ventures,
That
as
makes
long
no
as he
sense
didn't
for a
immediately
videotape to
build a
do
giant
that.
building over half the town. So, with that, Michael decided to buy out Jeff's Pizzeria, since it was just a crudely repurposed Freddy's location anyway. Using blueprints left in the office, Mike made near-perfect recreations of the classic animatronics.
Nice.
Everything was looking up for Michael, and his
That's
efforts
good.
rewarded him with massive success. Hearing the cacophony of customers at Freddy's every day made Mike confident in the pizzeria, and now he wanted to pursue a more personal project. After scouting out local scientists, he kidnapped Phineas Taggart to assist him in a new product for Fazbear Entertainment.
What?
Michael described his vision to Taggart, a marvelous substance that could violently clone and replace anyone it touched. When questioned why he wanted to create such a thing, Michael simply brushed it off as necessary trauma, much like what he had to go through to become a successful entrepreneur.
Oh,
Okay,
goodness.
but why do we need to make Fazgoo specifically?
It will build character.
Taggart was somehow satisfied
gosh.
with this answer, and after 26.5 minutes, he had developed the first ever sample of Fazgoo. Michael was ecstatic at the sight of this creation, but he needed to be sure it worked. Before he could dismiss Taggart, though, the scientist begged him for payment. Mike did not want to give actual money to this guy, so he just tossed him a robot dog and kicked him out.
Oh, gosh.
Meanwhile, the rejected animatronic from William Afton's Vacation had been hauled to the dump. After a while, a stray soul discovered it and decided to call it home. This turned out to be William's ex-wife, Eleanor Schmidt. Who had been kicked out of Molten Freddy during Henry Emily's final place of glory. The children inhabiting the animatronic mass voted that Eleanor didn't deserve to move on with them, so they quickly ejected her so she'd be stuck in this plane of existence indefinitely. After recollecting herself after all this time spent sitting in the backseat of Ennard, she gathered that this animatronic had no discernible characterization prior to her possession. So, having the full jurisdiction to present as any name she pleased, she decided to just go by Eleanor. While adjusting to her new body, Eleanor realized that her dress had a feature she only thought was possible in her wildest dreams.
Wait, what?
It had pockets. She needed to make use of these immediately, so she quickly looked around the junkyard for something worthy to put inside them. Her eyes were drawn to a pile of strange discs within the trunk of an old car, so Eleanor went ahead and grabbed them. Upon taking them, however, the sound waves these discs emitted granted her with cosmic power beyond her human understanding. Eleanor, realizing she could do anything she desired, immediately teleported to her old accounting firm, expecting to get right back to work. Her old boss was bewildered at the sight of her again and grimly told her she was laid off.
Those chips!
She did not take this news well. Filled with sudden rage, Eleanor killed her former boss, hammered by the power his agony fueled her with. She became obsessed with feeding on more of this, so she started plotting what to do next. Now holding a grudge against basically any businessman at this point, she targeted every major corporation she could think of and obliterated all of the people in charge of them. Triple the infinite power she had already. Eleanor was ready to claim victory as the greatest
I don't think I really cabin tabs about Eleanor in the actual canon.
Everyone on Earth that was subjected to these corporations was happy about their immediate quality of life boost, and Eleanor was hailed as a benevolent revolutionary, siphoning the agony right out of her with their collective joy. Becoming the hero of the working class was not what Eleanor had in mind. Although she kind of enjoyed the respect, that didn't do anything for her newfound hunger, and she needed to cause more problems. To avoid repeating the same mistake as before, she decided to keep things local. Drawing inspiration from how her ex-husband managed to discover Remnant, she worked at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza to do what William did, but better. However, as she approached the front door, Michael caught sight of her and immediately grew suspicious.
Who are you, and what are you doing here?
It's me, your mother. No hard feelings about the scooping incident, right? No matter. I'm here to
Travis eyes and Michael there.
Your patrons for personal satisfaction.
How predictable.
Being called out on the spot like that really got under Eleanor's skin. She would have murdered Michael out of spite in any other circumstance, but given she did owe him after the scooping incident, she let this personal attack slide. Eleanor
Alright.
needed to prove Mike wrong, though, so she decided to pull asinine stunts nobody would ever think to do.
Okay, let's
After
see.
that, an unlucky child just so happened to pass by Eleanor's line of sight, and Eleanor decided this kid was the perfect first victim to truly test her power. The
Oh,
child, named
dear.
Sarah was minding her own business as Eleanor followed her closely. As
Oh,
Sarah
no.
approached the suspiciously plot-relevant dump, Eleanor warped to the trunk she found before for the girl to notice her. Sarah was incredibly transfixed with the animatronics beauty,
dear.
and excitedly
can't be
carried her
good.
home
This
as
can't be
a
good.
display piece or something. At night, Eleanor figured this would be the perfect time to activate and begin her plan. She promised Sarah that she could make her wildest dream come true. To
Oh,
be
dear.
beautiful. Sarah, not understanding that she was perfectly fine the way she was, immediately agreed to this proposal. However, Eleanor told her she needed to forever wear her pendant for this to work. Over the next several days, Sarah was completely transformed. She became much more popular, much more confident in her looks, and much more paranoid that
Okay.
something would go wrong. And go wrong something did. With just one slip on a comically placed banana peel, Eleanor's pendant flew right off of Sarah's neck. To Sarah's terror, Eleanor was actually replacing her body with chunks of scrap
Oh,
metal, and
gosh.
the pendant was all that kept her hollow metallic
Oh,
membrane
they might be
together.
referencing
Sarah
the
desperately ran back home to
books.
try and beg for Eleanor's
I haven't
help,
really
to
kept
which the
tabs
animatronic
about.
welcomed her by shifting into a look-alike of the girl's original body. Had
Oh,
she
gosh.
survived, Sarah may have gleaned some sort of moral from this whole ordeal, but unfortunately she had completely fallen apart into a miserable pile of scraps. Eleanor retrieved her pendant, now charged with terrible agony
Goodness.
once again. With this boost in
Okay, I'm
power,
starting to
she was
really
ready to
start to
take on the
remember
entire
the-
population of Hurricane in increasingly strange and specific ways.
Oh gosh.
Meanwhile, Phineas Taggart was on a personal hunt for random junk. This
Okay,
particular
I
night led
don't
him to
really
Freddy
love
Fazbear's
the
Pizza
name.
Place, now in a sinkhole, where William Afton and Andrew just sat around playing music. Andrew's anger at William had settled quite a bit. All he had to do was scream into some trash, and soon enough he hadn't a clue why he was mad in the first place. Unfortunately, the trespassing Taggart wound up interrupting their game and slammed his robot dog onto Andrew's spirit, tethering its
Oh.
remnant to the toy's battery. William looked up at the man in mild distress. To avoid being tackled, tased, or anything else,
Oh,
he hastily
goodness.
got up and followed the man wherever he was going. On that
Okay.
note, Taggart arrived at his lab with his new trinkets, an Andrew-infested Fetch and William Afton. Taggart didn't initially plan on anything special for the junk he was collecting, but finding a stray soul and an animatronic zombie truly motivated him to try and do something
Goodness.
spectacular with it all. To his amusement, said zombie was absolutely hideous, and Taggart just
Oh,
had
of
to make
course.
William's unsightliness known to him.
Oh, please. I couldn't look that bad.
Yeah.
The side of his suit being horrendously burnt and broken, William accidentally death stared his reflection and he exploded.
What?
Taggart, delighted by the sudden haunted gunk all over his treasures,
What?
decided to take advantage of this and mash them all together into a new creation. This new animatronic not only merged the souls of William and Andrew into one body,
What?
but also introduced a third spirit into the mix. This was a child named Jake, whose death shockingly had nothing to do with Afton or Freddy's. With his
What?
good temperament compared to the other two,
I don't know what to
the
say.
animatronic, while William and Andrew were stuck being backseat drivers. Taggart was delighted at his living Stitch Wraith, but his joy was short-lived as William convinced Jake
What
to
the
stop
heck
mad
is this?
scientist. As it turned out,
Oh.
Afton's presence within the animatronic killed Phineas Taggart on the spot.
Yep,
Jake was
that makes
absolutely
sense.
horrified about this, but Andrew wasn't particularly bothered about it. After surveying the damage, they deduced that they should just wait for someone else to handle it. So, they sat
course.
there and waited until a garbage collector found them. Sure enough, though, the mere touch of the Stitch Wraith was all it took to kill this guy, too. Immediately, Jake realized who was responsible for this. William had already been giving off bad vibes, but now he looked blatantly proud of himself. When Jake tried to
Goodness.
explain this, though, Andrew came to William's defense.
What's so bad about him? They cheated at Uno once.
He literally killed 2 people just now!
Lies and slander.
No, I did do that. As a matter of fact, I killed you too.
I think I'd remember being murdered.
Jake needed to solve this fast. After some internal bickering, he learned about Andrew screaming into stuff to release his rage. With that information, Jake reasoned that putting those pieces back together could potentially refresh Andrew's memory. He'd remember why William was a problem, and they could finally get rid of the purple parasite. After a few
Okay.
weeks of running around on a garbage hunt, and with only a few extra casualties, the
Oh
Stitch Wraith
gosh,
was
it killed
abandoned back
Luigi!
into its trash
No!
compactor on its collection. Suddenly, intruding on the scene was Detective Everett Larson, who had been tracking down
another
the Stitch
character I
Wraith
not
this
really
entire
familiar
time
with
to try
either.
and cope with his divorce or something.
Probably from
As
the
Larson
books,
prepared
too.
to shoot it down, Jake suddenly caught notice of him and backflipped into the trash compactor in an act of defiance. As
What?
the Stitch Wraith crumpled together with all the junk, Andrew finally remembered what he was so angry at William Afton about. He was just about ready to throw hands with his killer once more, but he quickly gathered he may have been out of his league. After the Stitch Wraith flipped into the trash
Wait,
heap,
what?
William's soul transferred to the garbage and began forging it all together into a new body. After causing a
What?
chain reaction with the old machinery, William blew up the factory and used its debris to his advantage, growing into a 15-foot-tall monstrosity.
Oh!
So, making the decision to cut his losses, Andrew quietly made a run for it while he still
Oh gosh.
could. Larson, shocked at how dramatically the situation escalated, spent this valuable time throwing insults at the giant trash rabbit. William wasn't
Goodness.
fazed by this, though, and simply proclaimed,
Oh gosh.
Did somebody say agony?
Eleanor was there too, apparently. After learning of the Afton Amalgamation's existence, she quickly launched herself into it to try and absorb its power.
What?
This caused Afton to become far more violent, and Larson was nearly killed by the amalgamation.
Oh,
Before it could
gosh.
finish him off, though, he began hearing a voice coming from his bag. It was the mask of the puppet, or at least his delirious mind figured it must have been. Nonetheless, he tossed it at Afton's shins, and the impact caused him to fall apart like a house of cards. As Afton sank into the lake near the wreckage, he noticed Eleanor escaping his collapsing body, and he recognized her instantly. Not only was she his abandoned creation from his time travel vacation, he felt the spite emanating from her, and knew
Oh,
it could
gosh.
be only one person. The woman who he once probably loved, then definitely hated, had managed to become far more than he ever was. And so, he looked at her in bittersweet longing before everything faded to black.
Oh gosh.
William Afton was dead. Now that the amalgamation was destroyed,
Oh, was he actually
Stitch Wraith ran to
gone?
Larson's aid. Jake was all on his own now, and he wasn't going to let anyone else die. So, he whacked the detective with his battery, and that got rid of the lingering agony left behind by Afton. Now
Whoa.
that Larson was a little less half-dead than before, he immediately tried to fight Eleanor. She wasn't impressed by his endeavor, and she dragged him into a highlight reel inside her mind.
Your
Oh.
investigations, your hunt for the Stitch Wraith, your failed marriage. Who do you think was behind it all?
Oh dear.
Bad luck, I guess.
Oh, I thought I was being more obvious. Sorry.
Okay.
Anyway, it was me all along.
What? I'm very confused.
You know it, Larson, but I was always there.
What? Oh gosh. Oh gosh, that's diabolical.
Fueled by this master of disguise, immediately shot Eleanor 4 times in a row. This managed to disorient her enough to warp to another memory, where Larson then grabbed a baseball bat and bashed her head off. This went on in a loop for a while, weakening Eleanor but also not accomplishing too much otherwise. From an outsider's perspective, Larson and Eleanor just stayed in one place. The Stitch Wraith was bored of waiting, so Jake decided to see what would happen if he tried to interact with Eleanor without Afton infecting his touch. This allowed the Stitch Wraith to peer into her memories. While
Ooh.
Larson and Eleanor were still having their grand battle, Jake discovered Eleanor's worst memory.
I heard Billy D. Williams was in this one.
Wait, what?
Spoilers.
Confused by what the problem here was, but nonetheless undeterred, the Stitch Wraith grabbed Eleanor and
Oh,
Now that Jake had saved the planet
that's-
from Eleanor's wrath,
That's a
he
funny
felt
way
fulfilled
to
in his
explain
purpose.
Billy
With that, he
Atchins'
moved on from this world. and the Stitch
suckiest
Wraith
behavior as a
took
dad.
over. Larson, now sitting alone in the wreckage of a factory with 2 lifeless animatronics
Oh
in front of him,
gosh, the
deliberated
Peter
what to
Griffin
do
dead
now.
post.
He knew this was going to cause a big stink for the police department if he didn't have a believable explanation on hand. So he just tossed Eleanor and the Stitch Wraith's bodies into the
gosh.
ball pit at Freddy's and blamed their hijinks on Fazbear Entertainment. Michael Afton, now facing immense backlash from the
Alright.
company, had to figure out a way to save its reputation before
Oh.
it collapsed all over again. He checked his plans for anything that could help him, and to his relief, there was a perfect solution. All Mike had to do was cover up these allegations by touting a
Oh,
fictional
yeah,
version
here
of
we go. The
video game
VR game.
After interrogating his board of directors to see if any of them knew how to make a game, one of them spoke up and said they knew of someone that could. This
Oh,
led
boy.
Michael to a failed indie developer with a desolate hope for success, Steve Snodgrass. Steve's only claim to fame was a critically panned promotional title for El Chips, but Mike could feel the potential oozing from this creator.
Oh,
Steve
boy.
just needed a spark, and Michael
The
gave him
creator
lightning.
looks like Heads of
Steve,
BBQ.
ecstatic at the opportunity to make appropriate use of his uncanny modeling style, quickly whipped up a game called 5 Nights at Freddy's. It was pretty simple, but Michael thought it was a perfect starting point. After Steve posted this game under the guise that it was totally unauthorized, it immediately skyrocketed in popularity. People were playing it left and right, and most importantly, those curious about
is that supposed to be Markiplier?
confused
Oh, Matt.
modern fiction. Michael needed Steve to make a sequel, fast. Steve then churned out 2 more in only a couple days to resounding success. Mike realized quickly, though, that these games weren't actually helping with the current controversy the company was facing. Whatever skeletons were once in Henry's closet were of no concern to him. So Mike decided to assassinate Steve Snodgrass and cover up his death with a fan-made spin-off title. With that taken care of, Mike quickly commissioned an anthology book series to spoof recent incidents with Eleanor the Stitch Wraith. Despite the fact everyone knew about these public menaces, the prospect of reading about them made the public immediately stop caring. All Michael needed to do now was to tie it all back together by framing Steve Snodgrass as some random lunatic trying to deface his brand. So, he commissioned a studio called Silver Parasol to make a virtual reality game that cemented all of the rumors of Fazbear Entertainment as nothing more than fiction. Development was pretty standard, all things considered. The studio focused on remaking all 3 of the original FNAF games in VR, and then Michael personally provided them with scribblings of his own life experiences to use as inspiration for new levels. Alongside this, he also tossed them various circuit boards, notably from Scrap Trap and some old endoskeleton hardware.
Oh dear.
Developers that had helped make the characters perform in Pathfind or authentically in-game, to which everyone collectively told him that's not how it works. After some gentle negotiation, Michael convinced the team to scan the circuit boards anyway. This didn't seem to really accomplish anything initially, but soon something awakened within the VR game that nobody yet knew about. William Afton, against all odds, came back from complete eradication again due to lingering remnant on Scrap Trap
Of course!
possessing a program called Mimic 1. Observing the virtual space around him,
All
William
right.
started digging through files to obtain a more tangible form. To his disappointment, he wasn't all too pleased with any of the Spring Bonnie or Spring Trap models available to him. So, instead, William used the power of 3D modeling software to manifest a digital recreation
here we
of
go.
pajamas. To save its new form, he
Glitch
overwrote
Trap.
an unused Springtrap model named Glitch Trap and decided that worked perfectly for his new environment. He was considering the name Malhare, but he had no idea how to rename the files, so he just settled with what he had. As production continued and beta tests began, Glitch Trap encountered Jeremy Fitzgerald II, the security guard Balloon Boy chewed on once. While working as a QA tester, Jeremy tried to write off Glitch Trap as nothing more than a bug. As time went on, though, he wound up being captivated by the virtual rabbit rattling off nitpicks about the game's character models and level maps. Jeremy agreed that this was a problem, and he promised Glitch Trap that he'd set things right and make the VR game as accurate as he could. The other developers, however, felt insulted by the sudden onslaught of criticism Jeremy provided. None of it seemed rational or helpful, so they all conspired to get rid of him. After finding a guillotine paper cutter, the Silver Parasol development team cut off Jeremy's face and made it look like he did it in a fit of hysteria. Jeremy didn't really appreciate this.
What? That's gruesome. What the heck?
Parasol for cutting off his face. With his position now open, a successor dubiously named Tape Girl took his place. Tape Girl, much like Jeremy, was also unusually intertwined with the history of Fazbear Entertainment. Her brother, Phone Dude, had sucked her into a passionate interest in the company while he constructed Fazbear's Friend.
Oh god, this is getting crazy.
She decided to pick up his slack and participate in the company's current renaissance. Glitch Trap, upon seeing Tape Girl, recognized her as one of Phone Guy's children.
Or is this supposed to be Vanessa?
He had been burned by both her father and brother already, and he wasn't going to let that happen again. So, Glitch Trap went out of his way to freak her out as much as possible while she tried to beta test the game. Becoming terrified of this anomaly, and discovering that Silver Parasol was shutting down due to Jeremy's lawsuit, she hastily began to record audio logs documenting Glitch Trap's presence, and other details that could help whatever QA tester replaced her. As she continued attempting to delete the anomaly from the game, Glitch Trap devised a plan to attach himself to her virtual tapes in order to prevent her from killing him. By the time she figured this out, it was too late. So she hid the audio files across the game as well as she could before development was switched over. Glitch Trap wasn't going to let Tape Girl go that easy though, so on her last day on the job, created a brand new level meant just for her. As Tape Girl followed his bunny trail, she soon realized that he was the one responsible for the murders that plagued Freddy's all along. Feeling more and more tangled within the virtual reality, Tape Girl soon found herself trapped within the suit of Freddy Fazbear as Glitch Trap celebrated her digital demise. Now that Silver Parasol was no longer developing the Fazbear virtual experience, Michael wiped all known traces of the company and its employees from existence. The replacement studio was run directly by Fazbear Entertainment, and they sent out some Help Wanted ads to get fresh beta testers. Soon enough, a new hire caught wind of the job opportunity and applied as soon as possible. This applicant was a passionate Five Nights at Freddy's fan named Vanessa Shelley.
Here we
Vanessa was
go.
extremely excited to get the chance to test a brand new
That's a
FNAF
new
game.
unique
She
design.
wasn't confident that the new studio would uphold the franchise's integrity from the Snodgrass trilogy, but she chose to be optimistic. After putting on the headset for the first time, Vanessa excitedly combed through the entire game with almost nothing but enthusiasm. Experiencing her favorite series in total immersion was a feeling like no other, and she was having a blast. She was a little disappointed that most of the lore elements were seemingly gutted here, but that was a small price to pay compared to everything else. As she continued, though, she noticed some strange glitches throughout the various
gosh,
levels.
this is crazy.
Maybe this was some kind of new storyline she was unraveling. After discovering a hidden area within the game, Vanessa was able to piece together Tape Girl's recordings and discover the truth. To her horror, this wasn't just new lore, this was real. Upon this realization, Vanessa felt a shiver down her spine as she turned around to see a certain someone behind her.
Oh boy, there it is.
Shake it, girly pop!
What?
You don't like the voice?
Is this better?
After Vanessa took a short break to recover from that scare, she hesitantly put her headset back on and continued testing the game. As she played,
wait, that's
she noticed the glitch trap became
mimic,
more
right?
tangible as she found more of Tape Girl's messages.
I just real
Vanessa was
noticing that
uneasy,
I'm
but
trying
she
there.
decided that maybe it would be best to actually talk to the anomaly. Glitch Trap stood before her in relative silence, so she took this as a cue to speak. What started with conversation of her experience testing the game
Okay.
led to her entire
It's so
interpretation
whack.
of the FNAF timeline, including every ounce of external media she was aware of.
And then when Springtrap found him, he did a spot-on impression of the stepdad and then later stuffed him into an oven in Fazbear's Frights, and I think the actual place burned down, but it didn't end up.
Oh, gee.
Listen,
Glitch Trap had heard enough. Whatever nonsense Vanessa was recounting was absolutely nothing like what actually happened. So he caught her up to speed on the actual events of his life, from Ferdinand's creation to Afton's amalgamation eradication. Vanessa was over the moon. She never could have anticipated getting such a comprehensive understanding of all of Freddy's history, and she was shocked at how different the real answers were compared to the storyline the FNAF games portrayed.
Oh,
At
gosh.
this point, she decided she wanted to help Glitch Trap somehow escape the game. So, like any rational person,
Boy, I'm very
Vanessa
curious how
decided
things
to
go
let
once
Glitch
we
Trap
actually
merge
see
with her
more about
mind.
the mimic.
Removing her headset, Vanessa now saw William by her side in the real world.
Hey, sup, man?
No, I think the other voice was better, actually.
you are so picky.
Afton, now inhabiting Vanessa's brain, wasn't keen on being confined in someone else's body again, so he begged her to help him find a new body for himself. After thinking
Okay,
through
so
everything
that's
he had told
how.
her, Vanessa decided that she'd make her own personalized rabbit suit to keep William quiet while they tried to get him back into a physical form.
Oh boy.
Because that'd take a while, however, she
So
quickly crafted a
Vanessa
costume for
is
the
not
Halloween
mind
festival Freddy's was
controlled.
putting together. Speaking of which, Michael Afton was preparing something big. He had been postponing his plans to make an animatronic father figure long enough, and it was time to finally set things in motion. He needed a perfect vessel, though, something his own father created. After some consideration, Michael took a visit
is
to
this
the
where we
graveyard and
can-
dug up the original Fredbear's body.
Oh, what?
And make him into the perfect Papa Bear. Unsure of how to go about reviving an artificial intelligence, Mike figured that obscene amounts of electricity would do the trick. So he crudely stitched Fredbear back together and ran some tests to try and bring him
Okay.
back to life. And it was a success. Michael had let time slip
Oh,
right past him. Fazbear Fall Fest
Dreadbear.
was only in a few days, and he had yet to make the perfect attraction for it. All at once, it dawned on him that he could present the revived animatronic as Dreadbear until he could
Yeah.
fix him up properly. Sure enough, this worked perfectly, and at long last, Fredbear was the star of the show for the first time in decades. While attending the festival, Vanessa ruminated on her recent life choices. As she half-heartedly participated in the various attractions, William finally learned that Michael was behind all of this. For the first time in his unnaturally prolonged existence, he finally felt somewhat proud of his son. Before he could stew
Aw,
over this new emotion,
that's
though,
cute.
Vanessa accidentally bumped right into the entrepreneur. Vanessa, utterly embarrassed, began to profusely apologize, to which Mike just blankly stared at her, waiting for her to go away. This led to Vanessa rambling once more about her obsession with his company, only this time she had all of William's knowledge at her disposal. Michael, initially uninterested, was taken aback by Vanessa's inexplicable
Oh.
understanding of Fazbear Entertainment's history. After evaluating whether or not to dispose of her, he determined she may be useful and gave her a new job with special attention. Vanessa was now
Oh.
part of a security team for a new project Mike was working on, the Fazbear Funtime Service. This was a special delivery
Oh,
service
boy.
where Fazbear
Okay,
Entertainment
so he's still
mass-produced
not at that
replicas
point
of some of
yet
the most iconic
of
characters
security
from the
breach.
business's legacy and rented them out for criminally high prices. Vanessa was fascinated by this concept, and William realized this would be the perfect way to get a recreation of his favorite fursuit. So, on Vanessa's first day of security, she hacked into the system with her gamer skills and ordered production of Springtrap animatronics.
Oh boy.
By the time higher-ups noticed something unusual about this, they all shrugged it off since Springtrap was probably profitable enough to rent out. William was thrilled that his body had been perfectly remade, but he got cold feet once he realized Fazbear Entertainment was producing so much of him. He didn't want to just be another Springtrap in the crowd. He wanted to be in the spotlight. Vanessa was confused about him changing his mind, though, and they began to bicker about the integrity of a unique Springtrap.
Oh boy.
Getting fed up with this, Vanessa tried banging her head against one of the replicas to attempt to transfer. This ended up knocking her out, giving William free rein to puppet her body. Knowing this could come in handy for future schemes,
oh
he
boy.
quickly searched how to induce compliance in human subjects to ensure he could do this whenever it benefited him. This, alongside some other concerning web searches, alerted the IT department immediately. Unfortunately, the only guy who cared to contact Vanessa about it, Lewis, was more interested in coffee than figuring out why she wanted to chop people in half. By the time Vanessa came to, she didn't have any recollection of the stunts William was pulling, and simply resumed her normal work activity.
I love how
Anytime
Vanessa's
William took control
depicted
again,
here.
though, Lewis would shoot another email wondering why Vanessa wasn't taking the hint. This led to a lot of one-sided conversation and coffee invitations, but outside of that, the Funtime service was doing great. People were renting animatronics constantly, and the funds gained from this inspired Michael to start offering additional characters and quirky variants of the existing ones. There was only one problem. Aside from the occasional fatality from letting infamously killer animatronics out in public, delivery trucks for both animatronics and pizza started being attacked by bears. To Michael's surprise, bears absolutely adored the taste of pizza and despised Fazbear animatronics. This was all thanks to their overlord, Ferdinand von Bernard. Although artificial, Ferdinand's cosmic power allowed him to integrate perfectly into bear society. His appearance indicated to bears across the world that he was something special for their kind, and he provided them all with wisdom far beyond their years.
Updated
The most
Ferdinand's
important thing
design.
Ferdinand taught them, however, was to hold a grudge against Fazbear Entertainment. Being left behind and replaced by his creators was one thing, but his arch-nemesis, Michael, becoming CEO of the company was another. Michael was losing at least 5 delivery drivers a day.
Oh, he
from these
really
bear
cared
attacks,
about,
and paying off the lawsuits from this was the final straw. So he met with Vanessa in private and brought up her previous security breach on the Fazbear Funtime service.
I can't remember his name.
She was immediately terrified that she'd get fired, but on the contrary, Michael explained that he needed her to covertly program an order for war. After further instruction, Vanessa hacked into the Funtime service yet again to order the animatronics to attack all of bearkind. With just a push of a button, the Great Bear War began. Sonic and Ursine fiercely clashed against each other. Bears that could react stormed to the front lines wherever they could, and soon 2 allies arrived.
Full of bears.
It was Trevor the cashier and Harold the janitor, otherwise known as Shadow Freddy and Rickfist. Both of them had just been fired from their former jobs at Freddy's, and Michael had completely gutted their pension. Rickfist butchered one patron for cheating at Pack-and-Pal, and that managed to cross the line, apparently. Shadow Freddy didn't want to work at Freddy's without his partner, so Mike fired him too just so he couldn't formally quit. With nothing to lose, Shadow Freddy and Rickfist tried to assist the war effort to rebel against Michael. Sadly, as Shadow Freddy attempted to conga line a troop of bears to victory, he was obliterated by a barrage of fireworks. As Shadow Freddy's dark remnants scattered across Hurricane, Rickfist's rage grew so powerful that he managed to shut down the Funtime Service's servers and end the bloodshed. This was too little too late, sadly. He set off on a hopeless quest to recollect his partner and bring him back. Ferdinand, discovering Mike had nearly obliterated his people, knew he had to do something to fix this. After phasing through realities to forge the perfect plan, Ferdinand understood what needed to be done. For safekeeping, Ferdinand warped all bears across time and space to a new dimension he called Paradise, and waited for the stars to align in his favor. Now that bears were seemingly extinct, Michael had no threat to his business. Additionally, his overall corporate success...
that's right, because security breach plotted bears guys extinct.
For Mike to buy all of them out for cheap, and Fazbear Entertainment became a mega corporation within the blink of an eye. The stage was finally set for Michael to build the mega pizzaplex of his dreams, and Hurricane City Council couldn't say no this time. Michael was proud of Vanessa for her cooperation, and despite her not really being qualified for any promotion, he ordered his board of directors to transfer her to the head of security at the pizzaplex once construction was complete. It would take time for this project to finish, but Michael was absolutely certain that it'd be nothing short of his magnum opus. For now, he was left to contemplate his 2 personal projects. Dreadbear had been a great novelty for the Fall Fest, but his body's disrepair was not sustainable for a long-term business. So, Mike harvested Dreadbear's AI to use within a brand new animatronic. a glam rock reimagining.
Oh, yeah, here we
All
are.
Mike needed now was to finally use his Phasgoo for its true purpose. With confirmation from shady science teachers across the country that the substance worked, Mike was confident his most unattainable dream would come to fruition. Now, exploring every nook and cranny of Hurricane, he searched for the remnant he had coughed up after the pizza place fire in order to bring his younger brother back. Soon after vaporizing breakfast husks with a flashlight, Michael finally found what he was looking for.
Would that
A
become
chaotic energy emanating
Gregory?
from the newest remnant deposit he discovered, and he knew he found him. Capturing the remnant and returning home, Michael guided the child's soul to the Phasgoo and watched as the boy was finally put back together. Now that his brother actually existed again, the fog lifted. After all this time, Michael could finally remember the child's name. Gregory Afton.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Alright, I hope that suffices for now. The finale's rolling in much faster than this one, and I've got to be prepared.
Wait, finale? Is security breach the end?
Yep, nothing else. No secret up my sleeve. It all ends with... you'll see. Catch you next time.
Oh, so we might get a part 4, you mean? Oh my gosh. What? Goodness. Wait, so you still haven't answered questions! Oh my god, did we finally have an idea about it? Well, at least in this, there's still so many questions. I mean, like, now we know where Gregory comes from, but it also, supposedly this one confirms that Gregory is a robot. But if you understand what I'm talking about. Oh gosh, just get the end screen up. Oh yeah, that's funny. Oh yeah, that is hilarious. Oh gosh. Yeah. So this is funny. We just get them to use it out. Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, that's all to cover. I know it was fun to see part 3. So yeah. If you want me to check out part 1 and part 2, even though it won't be a blind reaction, let me know in the comments below. This was fun to watch. So yeah. So yeah, I got nothing else to say. So until next time, bye bye.